House to Home, presented by Remax Diamond Realty.
All right, everybody, this is House to Home, and Gina and Liz are here from Remax Diamond Realty Guam, as well as our friend Dennis, a professional surveyor, someone with vast years of experience. And we are picking up where we ended last week, right, Liz and Gina, about the nature of surveying on Guam. A very, very in demand, but unfortunately more demand than there is supply, evidently.
Yes, that's for sure.
Okay, so Gina, you had some specific topics you wanted to cover this week, since we have Dennis on Zoom for his expertise.
I've worked with Dennis from Guam Surveyors quite a bit, and what I particularly go to him about are probate maps. I'm always, families are always reaching out to us, myself and Liz, asking us questions about probate, asking us questions particularly about how to subdivide their property. And I know, I know that for instance, my property, I have my lot that I was trying to subdivide for my children. Dennis laughed at me the other day because I said, Dennis, how come my neighbor was able to cut up, we both have exactly the same square meters approximately. And I was only approved by the government to cut mine into 2 parcels. My neighbor cut up his lot into, I think, Dennis, did you say 9 or 12 lots?
12.
12. And I had asked Dennis, hey, what's wrong with this picture? And he's like, well, they did this through the court, Gina, and it was I guess a distribution. He said, you know what you have to do a distribution map, right? Basically, I can't be around anymore. So he said, you don't want to go there right now, do you? And I said, no, I don't. But it was just interesting. And so I kind of wanted to pick his brains about that so that families are aware of the differences when you're doing a map and you're going through court, or you're doing a map just on your own, as I was doing. Right, Dennis?
Right. So basically what your neighbor did was what's called a decedent's estate survey, which is basically the process to divide a property among the heirs. And that is usually a process that goes through the court. And so in a normal subdivision, when you're just a normal alive property owner,
Like me.
you can so you can subdivide the property into 5 or less. That goes through the parceling process, relatively short, simple. Or if you're trying to do more than 5, like 6 or more, you have to go through the subdivision map process, which is a process which you go through at GOUC. Can take years, has to have public hearings and all that stuff, and has a lot of additional requirements for it. Now, yeah. for the decedent's estate survey, you can subdivide it into more than 5 properties, but it is usually for a process that is reserved in court. So in your neighbor situation, the owner of your property next door actually died. They had a probate. They went to court, and they decided in the court, the judge had a map in front of him that said, here's how we're going to divide the property among all the heirs. They had like 12 or so. And that map would not be approved by land management under the normal process because it would not meet the minimum lot size. It would not meet the street width requirement and all that stuff. But land management had to approve it because that's what the judge wanted them to do. As long as it's not something that's totally against the law, right? Generally, the court has a pretty good discretion in order to determine how to distribute the assets. And that's what basically happens. So.
Yeah. But are they able, Dennis, I mean, you're saying the lot sizes, can they develop that? So if I was one of the heirs and I wanted to build on those lots, is it within the required regulations?
Well, it would be technically substandard, right?
Substandard.
Yeah, but it would still be a legal lot, right? Well, for that property, I think they had the less than usually in the smallest lot that you could get from that area was like 929 using a parental, right? 929 square meters.
Right.
I think they went 700 square meters.
But that's still doable to build a house. So that's interesting that that if the court order states something that this is to be done, land management has to accept it. That's a plus for the heirs, but you have to be the owner of the property has to have died in order to allow that to happen. So Gina and I can't take advantage of that at all.
Right.
Yeah, Dennis pointed that out very clearly to me. but Dennis, so it's interesting that the government of Guam allowed the map to be recorded at 700 square meters because technically in that area, in order for you to get a building permit, even with a parental subdivision, there is no sewer line there. You must have 9 square meters to build a home. And so, and this is a thing that Liz and I want to talk about with family members. Yes, it's wonderful that you're able to cut up the property and each person then has a share. But if you have a share of something that is now technically unusable because you're never in, I mean, I don't know how you're going to be able to get a building permit because there's no sewer in that area, and to bring in the sewer would cost more than buying another lot in that area. And so I caution families, yes, sometimes the goal is to make sure everybody gets a piece of property. But if you now are getting a piece of property that is, in my opinion, unusable to you, unless you're a farmer, you really should take a look at that. And maybe the family needs to come together and come up with a different plan that might be more advantageous to the family members, because I would see this as a big problem in the long run for the families that are getting properties like this.
But I'm wondering if the court stated it's, that this is the court order, would the government, Dennis, I don't know, would the government allow one of us to build if the court stated that it should be subdivided, this is deemed legal by court standards? Because I know we've had some issues even with zoning that if the court, stated something, then they have to honor it. So I'm wondering whether that would be allowed because the court ordered it. Would the government accept it?
The court would only force land management to go through the map to approve the map.
Mapping.
Whether or not it's unusable, they're not going to be too concerned about that. And they're not going to be able to tell Gov Guam, hey, go ahead and build a house, permit them to build a house on this property, right? So there's things within the court's purview and there's things not within the court's purview. So I've had situations where the court ordered a property that was like 200 square meters, right? But it went through. It had to, right? We all know that there's no way that you can get anything built on it. I mean, I remember distinctly telling the guys, like, well, the best you can do is put up a hot dog stand or something, Right.
Well, on that note, Gina, let's get some final thoughts because we got about 20 seconds left. What should people know about the role now of, as we've expanded it for surveyors?
It's not just about the conversation between you and the surveyor, because the surveyor can show you what you can cut up and how many. And even if you're going through court, the surveyor can give you that information. But the other part of the equation is, after you have the property subdivided, you also need to know what is the usability of that lot, or else you're just creating substandard lots that are now great to say you own it, but what can you use it for is the ultimate question.
I would recommend that property owners try to talk to a surveyor as soon as possible if they have any questions regarding this process.
Well, and make sure you get some time with your friendly neighborhood surveyor, everybody, because there aren't a lot to go around. But as Dennis showed, they're learned professionals who really, really care about doing the job right. So Dennis, thank you very much. And ladies, happy holidays to you and all of your families. We appreciate it, guys.
Happy Thanksgiving.
All right.
Thanksgiving.
All right. Happy holidays, everybody. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.